Welcome everyone to Taxspeaker's free Q&A this week. Hi, I'm Bob Jennings. This is a special free edition of our normal Q&A subscription series. I'm just going to answer your Social Security and Medicare questions. We have a half dozen questions that have been submitted over the last week or two. I'm going to do those first, and then I'll take questions that come in. I do need to warn you, there is about a 5 to 10 second delay between me answering the question and you getting it because of the technical aspects of YouTube, TV studios, etc. We're coming to you from Taxspeaker's TV studio in our corporate offices in Jeffersonville, Indiana. And again, I'm Bob Jennings. Happy to answer your questions. I won't have any answer. If I'm sure of it, you'll know. If I'm not sure, I'll tell you, hey, here's what I think, but it's not what I know. So let's go ahead. Our very first question. Our video producer today, Jason Fruits, will read the question to me. You will hear it, and then I'll probably repeat it and try to answer it. So go ahead, Jason.
If someone married 3 times but is married to each one for over 10 years, do they choose the highest benefit of the 3 on their own when reaching retirement age, or is it limited to the last spouse?
Okay, so I was married to spouse number 1, 2, and 3, all of them for greater than 10 years. I've been divorced from all, and then I also have my own benefit. How is this calculated? Social Security says a couple of things. Number 1, I'm going to need to know the date of birth, the Social Security number, proof of marriage, proof of divorce so that you can have proof that you met the 10-year rules. And finally, number 5, the actual name of that individual. Presuming that you've got all 5 bits of information for each prior spouse, what happens is if you provide that information to Social Security, they're going to look at spouse 1, 2, 3, and your own, and you will draw the highest of those 4. So it's not the highest of the 3. They also will compare that to yours. And I'm skipping some steps, but the bottom line is, if you provided the information on prior spouses and you've got your own, when it's time to sign up, you'll get the larger of all 4 of those different benefits. Question number 1. Great question. Thank you. Number 2. Go ahead.
Could you discuss a brief interview of the 529 to the... Do we want to ask them?
Yeah, go ahead. Ask it. It's not Social Security. No other questions that aren't Social Security. But
so the conversion of the 529 to the Roth IRA.
Okay, there is a new rule. This is a non-Social Security question, but I will answer it. In the Secure Act 2.0, there's a new rule that says you may convert up to $35,000 from a 529 to a Roth. Okay, in order to do that, first, that 529 must have been in place for 15 years. So one of the things that I have said is, if you have a child or grandchild, even if you don't ever think you'll be at the point where you can do this conversion, I'd go ahead and start the clock. I'll give you an example. I have 2 grandchildren. I love them dearly, but when I first set up my first 529, I set it up for Aria, the oldest of the 2. She's now 10, will be 11 here in a couple of months, so I've already got 11 years in on her. Her little brother, Kieran, is only 7, and one of the things that I'm actually going to do this week is open a 529 plan for him to start that 15-year clock rolling. Okay, now this 35 grand, so after 15 years, I can convert it to a Roth. Now, why is that an advantage? 529 plan can only be used tax-free for college-related costs. A Roth, once it's been there 5 years, if you are 59 and a half, or dead, disabled, or able to draw, you can get that money out tax-free. In other words, this is a way to get the money out of the 529 in the future through a Roth and get it out totally tax-free. Only disadvantage is this 15-year rule. Now, the 35 grand has a couple of limits. First is it is going to be inflation adjusted. Second, the amount of annual conversion is limited to that year's Roth contribution. So if the Roth contribution limit is 7 grand, I could only convert 7 grand this year, but then I could do another $7,000 next year. So that's the only off-topic question. That one slipped in on us. We took it, but we're on Social Security and Medicare. So go ahead and give me another one there, please, Jason.
For someone below full retirement age but receiving Social Security disability, is there a maximum income limit they can earn and not affect their benefits?
All right, so I'm 55 years old. I am on Social Security disability. Is there a maximum dollar amount that I can earn without affecting my benefits? Yes, the exact number is, I'm thinking it's $1,460 a month, somewhere just shy of $1,500 a month. I don't know the exact number, but I'm very close. You get above that number, many things come into jeopardy, but the number is about $1,460 a month while you're on Social Security disability for the disability to continue. What's unusual is when you hit your full retirement age, that disability will switch over to conventional Social Security, and there's no limit on what you can make at that point. Unusual rule, but that's the rule. Another one, please, Jason.
When may a wife who has never worked be able to pull on her husband's Social Security?
All right, so we have Joe and Ann. Conventional old-style marriage. Ann has no Social Security history, no work or earnings history. When can Ann draw on Joe's account? All right, number one, Joe has to be drawing, or dead if you'd rather. I don't know the relationship. All right. So for Ann to draw on Joe, presuming Joe is still living, Joe has to be drawing. Well, what if Joe is 67 and hasn't signed up yet? Then it doesn't apply. Ann cannot draw. Joe has to be drawing a check. All right. That's number one. Number two, Ann must be at least 62. Or over, of course. I would advise, everybody is different. I don't want to give a generic answer, but as a general rule, I don't really want Ann drawing early unless there's other reasons to draw early. Why, if Ann signs up when she's first eligible, she will pay a penalty, an early sign-up penalty of roughly 6% each year that she draws early. And you know, that could be 30-40% penalty, and it'll apply the rest of her life. But there's really only two simple rules. Assuming there is a third rule, they have to have been married for 9 months. Okay. Okay, next one.
If the spouse of an S-Corp owner is on Medicare, can the S-Corp reimburse the owner for the spouse's Medicare premiums and treat as a self-employed health insurance? Can a sole proprietor do the same?
All right. Actually, that question applies to me specifically. The question is, spouses on health insurance, the owner of the S-Corp, can the owner of the S-Corp reimburse the spouse for her, I said health insurance, I meant Medicare. All right. Can the owner of the S-Corp reimburse the spouse for that spouse's Medicare premium or pay it directly? And the answer is yeah. In our office here at Taxspeaker, I'm 70. I'm on Medicare. My wife is 68. She's on Medicare. She no longer draws a salary from the company, yet the company, it goes all the way back to an old rule from 2008. The company is allowed to pay directly or reimburse for the Medicare premiums, which would include Medicare Part B and D and Supplement. They may pay or reimburse the taxpayer, the owner of the S-Corp, for the taxpayer and their spouse's medical insurance. In summary, my S-Corp at Taxspeaker is just like your question. It may pay directly my premium and my wife's premium, or reimburse me directly for my premium and my wife's premium. And in both cases, that amount gets added to my W-2 box 1, but not box 3 or 5. And then over on my 1040, both Jean and I, my wife's name is Jean, both Jean and I say again, both Gene and I, qualify for the self-employed health insurance deduction. It's rare that I can give a question where you win on every single point. This is one of them. Go buy that Mega Millions lottery ticket right now. It's over $1 billion if I remember right. Okay, next one.
Follow up to this last one. May a C Corp reimburse for Medicare too?
May a C corporation reimburse for Medicare? We've run afoul of a different rule here. And when the C Corp reimburses for Medicare, we have to worry about discriminatory clauses. See, there's a special rule for S Corps that allows this. It goes back to IRS Notice 2008-1. That rule doesn't apply to a C Corp. My summary being, no. You can't have the same treatment in a C corporation. What I would suggest in a C corporation is maybe have the C Corp provide the health insurance or the Medicare premium, have it, pay it directly. But if you got other employees, I'm not sure that this will stand up. My summary, what I just explained to you works in an S Corp, but I don't believe it works in a C Corp. The C Corp has to pay the premiums directly in a non-discriminatory manner. And if there's other employees, we got a problem. Next.
Bob, you mentioned that you would be drawing on Gene's Social Security before you start drawing on yourself. Can you elaborate on that again, please?
There's a special rule on Social Security for people born before 1954. That's me. And it says if I wait until my wife is her full retirement age, I am allowed, if I'm also full retirement age, I'm allowed to sign up for her benefit, which, you know, I'm her spouse, I get half of her check. If I was born before 1954 and she is full retirement age, if I am also full retirement age, I can sign up for half of her benefit under what's called the restricted application rule. And what that does is it allows me to collect half of Gene's Social Security benefit, allowing mine to continue to accumulate until I'm age 70. Well, I am age 70. I have gotten one check now. I'm one check deep. But in order to utilize that whole restricted app rule, a couple of things. First, the person's filing for the restricted app has to have been born before 1954. And second, both parties have to be full retirement age. Next.
We have a husband who died in December of 2021. When I was preparing the wife's 2022 return, I noticed that she did not step into the higher benefit for Social Security. I assumed that this would be automatic. How would I go about correcting this?
Okay, so husband died in December of 21, and in doing the 22 return, Social Security number did not increase. As you know, at his death, she goes from half of his benefit to the check he was getting. How do we get this done? Well, actually, it really falls back to the coroner's office. They were supposed to notify Social Security Administration of his death. So what she's going to need to do is get a copy of the death certificate, as well as his Social Security number, and make an appointment with the Social Security Administration. You're not going to be able to do this online. She's going to have to physically meet with an employee at the office, but she's going to have to get an official death certificate copy and go down. I take a copy of the return to show a joint tax return in the year of death, and be prepared for something else. But it's going to take a physical appointment with a death certificate to get it fixed. Next.
If the biological parent of an adopted child dies, can the adopted child collect the survivor benefit?
The biological parent of an adopted child dies, can the adopted child get the survivor benefit? So little Susie has a biological parent. Susie, however, gets adopted by Mary Ann and Bill. Susie's birth mother dies. Can Susie draw off the birth mother a survivor benefit when she is considered a child of Mary Ann and Bill? And the answer is no. She has given up that right by being adopted somewhere else. No, sorry. It's part of the cost of an adoption, I suppose. Next.
Stepping back to the previous question with the wife stepping up in the Social Security, will the wife be able to get the missed money retroactively?
Okay, so going back, So the husband dies in 12 of 21, and let's say his check was $2,000 a month. The wife, and I don't have enough information, but normally the wife's benefit while husband is living is 1/2 of that number of 1,000. Upon his death, she should actually be stepping into the actual check that he was getting while he was alive. So while he was alive, she gets half, and upon his death, she gets the full check that he was getting. The question is, since Social Security didn't pick this difference up, can the wife get that $1,000 catch-up amount? Yes, she can, and she should. When she goes into Social Security, they ought to calculate it, and she should get a retroactive check for that full amount. How far back that goes, I don't think the retroactive rule applies. I think it'd go back as far back as she was eligible, but, you know, we need to get that done. But yes, she can get the back benefits. Next.
What is your opinion on Medicare Advantage plans?
Medicare Advantage plans. Medicare Advantage, again, let me go back to the screen. We have conventional Medicare A, B, Advantage, and D. Medicare A is major medical. Medicare B is conventional health insurance. Medicare Advantage is from a third party. And Medicare D is drugs, pharmaceuticals. Okay, for Medicare A, there is no premium. For Medicare B, there is a monthly premium, which this year has a base of about $165 a month. Medicare Advantage, here's what happens here. Medicare Advantage, because it comes from a third party, it takes over Medicare A at zero cost, Medicare B at $165, plus whatever their third party fee is. And their third party fee could be, let's say it's $35. I'm randomly choosing a number out of the air. So maybe I spend $200 a month for Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage then takes over major medical, conventional medical. It also fills in the deductibles and copays that apply up here. All right, so quite often it is a cheaper way to go. There are great issues here, and that is Medicare Advantage is limited to the insurer's approved partners. And the insurer's partners are geographical and specific. Meaning, if I am in Baltimore, Maryland, and I buy a Medicare Advantage program, that Advantage program may be great. It may save me a whole lot of money, but I'm limited to doctors, hospitals, and labs in that Baltimore geographical area and that are members of that group. If I leave Baltimore and I'm visiting friends in Bradenton, Florida, and I get sick in Bradenton, I'm not covered under Medicare Advantage. I'm out of network. Advantage of the Advantage program, if you don't travel, it's probably a pretty good deal if your doctors meet it, specific doctors and hospitals, if you get to keep your doctors. If you travel, however, you don't have anything to do with this. You got grandkids somewhere else and you visit them, you go on vacation, you don't want Medicare Advantage. To me, Medicare Advantage is best applicable for people who don't travel and are currently happy with their doctors who are included in their Medicare Advantage plan. If you travel or you got doctors that are not included, no to Advantage. Next question. Ryan, could you get me a cup of water, please?
How long does it take for Medicare premiums to go down after you exceed the income limit?
Medicare, you know, when you pay your Medicare premium, remember I had 165 up there. The base premium for 2023 is $164.70, I think, a month. But there's an additional penalty on that called the IRMAA fee. And this penalty says you all start at a base of about $165 a month. But if your income 2 years ago was above certain levels, you're going to pay more than $165 a month. The question is, how long does it take for that premium to go down? Well, because it's a 2-year look back, in 23, you're going to pay that amount all year. And in 24, your premium will be based on 22's income. So it's a calendar year rule. You're stuck with that for the entire year. Thank you, Brian. So if you're paying the IRMAA penalty, you're going to pay it for the whole year. Next.
If reimbursed Medicare premiums if reimbursed Medicare premiums to S Corp shareholder goes in box 1 but not box 5, the addition of premiums will not adversely affect the earnings test limits for the shareholder if drawing, correct? I'll repeat. So if reimbursed Medicare premiums to S Corp shareholder go in box 1 but not box 5, the addition of premiums will not adversely affect the earnings test limits.
I agree.
For the shareholder drawing.
Okay, so let's say I'm making $10,000 a year. My Medicare premiums are $4,000 a year. I add the $4,000 up to W-2 box 1 and gets to 14, but box 3 and 5 still stay at 10, meaning your Medicare earnings limits apply to box 3, Social Security wages. So the addition of premiums does not affect the earnings limit. You are correct. Good question. Next one.
What is the difference between Medicare Advantage and Supplemental Medicare?
Okay, Medicare Advantage. So remember a minute ago I had it up here. Medicare Advantage is A, B, plus a third party. And third party premiums, that premium is meant to cover the co-pays and deductibles of Medicare Part A and B. And sometimes it'll even include dental and vision. Sometimes. The question is, what's the difference between that and supplemental? A supplemental policy. A supplemental policy, you retain A, you retain B, you also pay a third-party premium. That third-party premium, which is the supplemental policy. See, you don't change the regular. The third-party premium will pay co-pays. It will pay deductibles, depending upon the policy you get. The difference is, with Medicare Advantage, as we said, you're limited here to the geographical area where you're located, as well as the providers. Whereas with the supplement policy, because you're still on Medicare, there are no limits geographically or to providers. You get the flexibility with a supplemental policy. At Taxspeaker, my wife and I do not have Advantage. We have Medicare conventional A and B, and we buy a supplemental policy because I do still travel a lot, and even if I didn't, it gives me access to the physicians and hospitals, et cetera, if I would ever need one that I wish. So you're comparing apples and oranges. Although they're both third-party policies, the difference is this third-party policy under Advantage is limited to your geographical area and your list of approved providers, where under a supplement policy, you're not limited anywhere. By the way, you didn't ask, you cannot buy a supplement policy if you're under an Advantage program. And if somebody tries to sell you that, you run from them because that's against the law. Next question.
Are you aware of any suggestions to help those spouses who cannot collect Social Security due to the windfall elimination provision?
Windfall elimination provision I'm unable to collect because my spouse has a good job, and but it's a government job. The only thing that I can do to help the windfall elimination provision, if you're affected by this, is to accelerate the early demise of your spouse. That's all I got. Sorry. Divorce would be the other option. Death or divorce. That's all I got. Sorry. Next.
Can you get out of the IRMAA penalty if you can show that it's a once-in-a-lifetime high income, say selling the farm?
Can you get out of that Medicare Part B premium penalty by showing it's a one-time event? Generally, this is supposed to be a life-changing event, marriage, death, major illness, something like that. But the answer is you can. The sale of your prime income producing asset generally would qualify to get you out of the IRMAA penalty. You would have to file the appeal. And I don't remember the form number. I've got that in our Social Security class. But yeah, I think the sale of the asset that causes the primary amount of income would qualify for the exception. There is an exception. For example, maybe you're getting all your income from investment property and then you sell one. That generally qualifies you for the exception. So I'm going to say, yeah, I would appeal that, and I think you can get out of the penalty. Next.
There's another one that's kind of similar to this. It states, if IRMAA hits you 1 year and then your premium goes back down, what happens if you fall under IRMAA again?
Because the IRMAA penalty is applied each year individually, it is possible that you'll pay it, and then because it's always a 2-year look back, you had a bad year 2 years ago, and then it goes down, and then next year, it's looking back to a different year 2 years ago. It could go back up. Yes, it could be a stair step. Very, very possible. Yeah, unusual, but it can occur. Next.
For sole proprietor taxpayers that report a net loss for their business, do you generally recommend they pay self-employment tax using the optional method so they pay into Social Security?
All right, a sole proprietor is allowed to elect something called the optional SE method up to 5 times in their life and pay in just the minimum amount to buy them 4 quarters of coverage for that year. So if I've got a loss this year, I can still optionally elect to pay in enough to get 4 quarters of coverage. It's about $6,500 of income. And if you think about it, it's about $900 that you're going to have to pay on that. Do you generally suggest that? Yeah, and I tell you why. There's a couple of reasons. First, I need 40 quarters in my life. Second, I don't want to take any chances losing my disability coverage. And third, your benefit in Social Security is based on your highest 35 years of income. And $6,500 beats the heck out of none. So to answer your question, yes, I generally recommend it. When we have farmers don't have a 5-year limit. They can elect optional SE every year. I don't even ask, we elect. And I would do the same on a Schedule C in most cases. Next.
What concerns are there if you switch from Medicare Advantage plan back to basic Medicare?
You're allowed to switch over from basic Medicare to Medicare Advantage every year during the open enrollment period. You can also switch back if you've done so in the future. What I would maybe suggest is, we're going to go a little bit sideways here. When you get to retirement age, you know, for years I was a CFP. I let that expire at the end of 21, so I can't call myself that anymore. But once you hit retirement age, you know there are 3 phases of retirement age. The active phase. In the active phase, you're traveling and you're doing all those things that you've always wanted to do. I don't think Medicare Advantage is appropriate during that period of time. Why? If you're traveling, we already know that Advantage is not a good program if you're traveling. Once you're done with the active phase, you're in what's called the sedentary phase. You're still not dead, but you're slowed down. Your energy level is down. And you might, at that point, consider Advantage. You know why? Because you're not traveling. And then finally, down here to the last phase, the holding on to death phase. As sad as that sounds, it's true. Holding till dead. And that might be the Advantage phase. Okay, so the question is there any reason to go back and forth? I think very clearly in the active phase it's not appropriate. All right, if you enter the sedentary phase, I can't call it. But what about this? What if we're in the sedentary phase, but we're married, one spouse is active, one spouse is sedentary, and the active spouse stays home because the sedentary spouse doesn't ever want to do anything? Well, that active spouse might want to not have Advantage, or maybe the active spouse is taking care of a spouse that's in one of these 2 areas. Be on the Advantage then, and then if that spouse passes, switch back over to conventional. All right, I hope that answered the question. Next one.
A client mentioned she signed up for Medicare Part G. I've never heard of Part G. Is there such thing? How many parts are there?
There are 4 parts to Medicare: A, B, Advantage, and D. I think your client is probably confusing a supplemental policy which one of them is Part G, I suppose, with conventional Medicare. No, I've never heard of Medicare Part G either. I bet they bought a supplement policy, and those have letter designations as well. That's my gut feeling. I never heard of it either. Did you make that up?
No.
Okay.
No question. What is the time limit to file the appeal for IRMAA penalty?
Time limit to file the appeal for the IRMAA penalty. You know, I don't know that one off the top of my head. I've got running through my mind 4 months, but I don't know that. So I'm not going to answer it because I don't know what the answer is and I'm just guessing. Sorry.
Do you have a recommendation for an insurance broker for Medicare Advantage or supplemental plans?
Can I recommend Medicare Advantage or supplemental policies? Well, if somebody wants to send me commission checks, I'd recommend them. But since I don't get those, I don't have one now. My supplement policy is through AARP, but it's a United Healthcare policy, you know, the nationwide insurer. As far as Medicare Advantage, I don't have anybody. And your supplemental policies, I don't really want to recommend one. You know, for us, we studied, we looked at it. You can go onto the Medicare website and it'll give you ratings of all the different companies that offer supplement policies. That'd probably be your better choice. Medicare.gov, and look at the supplement policies and then look to the ratings of each insurer for what it is that you're looking for.
For the active couple, that one is active, the other is sedentary. For the active one, would you recommend any supplemental travel insurances along with Medicare Advantage?
I bet whoever asked that question has been to our classes before. I'm not an insurance agent. I do not get commissions. There is a third-party insurance policy you can buy that covers all your travel, remote medical, transportation back to your home area. We buy a policy for every employee and every speaker here from a company called Allianz. It runs us about $400 a year, and it covers many of the things that are still left with holes with a Medicare Advantage or a supplement policy. So to answer your question, we got a married couple. One is active, one is sedentary. The active one is still maybe going out to see kids, maybe going on trips with friends. I would buy the supplement edition from the company called Allianz. And I may have misspelled it. There might be 2 L's in there. Allianz.
I thought it was Allianz.
They would prefer to be called Allianz. Why, they're French. Allianz. Next.
Additional to the prior question, when switching back to basic Medicare from Medicare Advantage, would your premium be the same as if you had never left? And do you have to pass a medical exam?
When you're going from Medicare Advantage to traditional Medicare or back, you do not have to prove insurability. And your premium would step back into the same place that you left. So no, there's no penalty either way, and you do not have to prove insurability, assuming that you did have coverage from 65 on.
On IRMAA, I have had an appeal denied because the farmland sale happened after the land had been converted to rental. Comments?
So I have a client that owned farmland, then converted it to rental, then sold it, and I tried to appeal to get the IRMAA penalty revoked. And then the question was, do you have any comments on that? I guess my gut feeling is Social Security was taking the position that you decided not to sell it until later on, and maybe it wasn't a life-changing event. It wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I think you had luck.
So this is our last live question.
Okay.
We're over 30 minutes in. What is your opinion of Social Security being depleted by 2034? Will benefits be prorated?
As of right now, the Social Security Trustees report does estimate that the backlog of savings that we built up over the years will run out here in about 10 to 12 years. Assuming Congress does nothing, if you read further, they are still telling us we'll still have enough money coming in each year to still pay 79% of benefits forever and ever and ever. So do you think that that means that that roughly 20% haircut is going to be allocated evenly amongst all participants? That's what I would guess if that occurs. I personally don't think that'll occur. I do think that politically speaking that Congress, both parties will finally step in and fix it. But worst case situation, there's going to be a 20% haircut. I think it'll be applied equally to all beneficiaries, both those already drawing and those to draw, but we'll have to see where that goes. You say that's the last question? Okay. So, folks, we spent 35 minutes together. I hope that I've answered some of your questions, given you some good information. We love doing this Q&A series. I do it almost every week. I take a week off now and then, but for all of us here at Taxspeaker, whether it's Jason Fruits, our video producer today, our IT director, Ryan Jennings back there, you can't see either of them behind the camera, or myself, Bob Jennings. Hope this has been worthwhile, this live course. And until next time, I'm Bob. See ya, and thank you.